Hello, everybody, and welcome to ZTV Live. I'm Susan Mulligan Fleischman, and today is Wednesday, August 26th, 2020. Happy National Dog Day to everybody out there, but more importantly, to your very special four-legged best friends in the world. And is there anything, we all love our dogs so much, and I'm just going to take a little selfish minute and show you a picture of my own beauty, our family dog, Penny. She's a rescue. We've had her. She's 14 years old now and going strong. This was taken a few years ago, but she has enriched our family in so many ways, and we are so blessed, as I think anybody who has a dog would agree. So tonight we have Jane Collins is here with her 10 questions, and our guest tonight is Ally Barbaro, the Americorps Vista volunteer for Hunger Free Alexandria. And Jane and Ally will be with us in just a minute. But before that, we do have some words from our sponsors. Tonight's episode of ZTV Live is sponsored by PawsGo.com. They're based in Delray, but available online. And PawsGo is a favorite of dog lovers around the region and the country. Local artists create their designs, and the merchandise is produced locally, with many items supporting local welfare and rescue organizations. So check them out at www.pawsgo.com. And by Whole Dogs, a dog walking service, which is a lot more because everybody is home, working from home, taking care of the kids, doing schooling soon. So let Whole Dogs help you with juggling your pups and working from home, because they have the solution for that. Visit www.wholedogs.com, and that's dogs with a Z. And by the Holistic Hound Academy, Alexandria's premier training and learning center for people and their dogs. And let's face it, the people need training almost as much, if not more, than the dogs. Give them a visit online at www.holistichound.com, and they're located right in Alexandria here. And if you'd like to be a sponsor on ZTV Live, let us know. Send us an email at ads@thezebrapress.com or send us a private message on Facebook. We'd love to hear from you. Okay, now I'm going to bring Jane Collins on, the Executive Director of HERD, a beautiful nonprofit here in Alexandria. Hello, Jane. Welcome back to ZTV Live.
Hey, Susan. Good to see you again.
Good to see you, too. How's it going?
It's good. It's going well. I did have foot surgery. I'm hobbling around on a cast, but, you know.
But the show must go on. It hasn't slowed you down.
The show must go on.
It hasn't slowed you down very much from what I can tell. So good for you.
Right. As long as we're not running track. Yep.
Yeah, exactly. Or playing tennis just yet.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, hopefully we'll get you on the court soon. I'm going to go ahead and bring Ally on the screen as well. Hi, Ally. Welcome to ZTV Live.
Hi, Ally.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Sure. Thanks for coming on. I'll let you take it over, Jane.
Okay. See you in half an hour.
Sounds good.
Okay, Ally. Thanks for being on the show.
Of course. Thank you for having me again.
So, Ally, for those of you who are viewing right now, Ally is the Americorps intern for Hunger Free Alexandria. And if you have any questions for Ally, you can write them in the comments section. We may ask them on air. We can ask them tomorrow, maybe, when we do our follow-up 5 more questions. But please, if you have any questions, please type them in. But up until then, we have the bowl of questions. This is a different bowl, by the way. We had to change floors of the house. We had to change bowls because of, the surgery and all that. So, but the questions are still just the same. So are you ready?
I am ready.
Okay, first question is an obvious one. What is Hunger Free Alexandria, and what is your role?
Of course. So Hunger Free Alexandria is a community-based coalition right here in Alexandria, and our mission is to raise awareness of food insecurity as well as increase reliable access to nutritious food in Alexandria. And my role this past year as an Americorps Vista, I started in September of 2019, so my year's almost up. But my role was kind of to serve the organization in any way that they needed me. And that took a lot of different forms, but I would say mostly it was things like managing the email and our social media, all the way through volunteer management and some programming operations as well.
And there's so many great questions that I just want to ask you. Normally, what we do, we go back and forth between the professional questions and some personal questions because we want the viewers to get to know you. So, and actually, this question is kind of tied into both of them, and that is having been the, I guess, coordinator, for lack of a better term, for Hunger Free Alexandria, what has been the most rewarding part of that?
I would say the most rewarding part, and it's kind of an overarching theme, but getting to know so many community members in Alexandria has been probably the biggest joy of this year with Hunger Free. Being able to learn so much about a community that has so many passionate members like Alexandria has just been awesome. I just never knew people could be such good neighbors like I've seen them be in Alexandria.
Well, great, and we know that, and so thank you. Thank you for noticing. Thank you for all of you out there who are Alexandria neighbors. And you'll hear this theme a couple of times throughout the show, but Allie's looking for a job. So if you have any fabulous job opportunities, please put something in the comments, and you'll hear about that again. So, but in the meantime, especially your role probably, Allie, got really busy after March and COVID-19. So how did your role change, and how did Hunger Free Alexandria change when that happened?
So one of the biggest things that Hunger Free Alexandria does is we maintain a food resource list. So if anyone in Alexandria is in need of free food, they can look to this list. And I would say I maybe updated it twice from September 2019 through March 2020. And once COVID-19 started to hit, I guess, I was probably updating that minimum once a day and sending out the updated version because things were changing so rapidly there for a while, of which food pantries were remaining open, who was closing, who was changing the way that they serve the community, all things like that. So that changed drastically, and keeping up communications with our food providers and the community, as well as we actually started or helped start a meal distribution for a while there from April through June with a bunch of partners. But before that, we hadn't really run any of our own programs. We just supported other programs, so other food pantries and meal programs, where starting in April, we partnered with the city and Alive and Volunteer Alexandria, many others, to actually run our own meal distribution.
And who all are the partners in Hunger Free Alexandria? At least some of them, because there's a lot, right?
Yeah, so basically anyone who's interested in being a part of the food landscape in Alexandria is always welcome. We have our largest partners are probably Alive and the West End Food Pantry. Really, our partners range from food providers. We have a lot of faith organizations that are partners. We partner with the city, of course, as well as ACPS. And actually, for National Dog Day, one of our more recent partners is the Animal Welfare League of Alexandria, and they have just
Awesome.
been as well. So,
Well, cool. Great. I didn't know you had so many.
yeah, quite a few.
And it sounds like you picked up some more after March.
Yeah, and I would say just our involvement with some of our partners picked up a lot after March. A lot more communication as, more rapid response to things was needed.
Now, you're in this position as an Americorps Vista volunteer. So what led you to join Americorps? And I think there's a picture that's going to accompany your answer.
Yeah, so I graduated from the George Washington University in 2019. For my 4 years I was there, I volunteered with an organization called Camp Kesem GW. That's what the photos are from. It's a nonprofit that runs a free summer camp for children who are impacted by a family member's cancer, so a parent or guardian's cancer. And so I spent my 4 years volunteering with that organization. It just led me to want to continue my life in service, basically, and especially in the nonprofit field. And so then when I was looking for jobs after school, I found this one in Alexandria, and it seemed like a great next step.
Oh, so you're looking for a job in the nonprofit sector. Did everybody hear that? Especially in international affairs, but maybe not, right?
Exactly.
So So getting back to the food, what is the largest food need area in Alexandria, and do we have one?
So the two areas of Alexandria that come up most often are the West End and the Arlandria neighborhoods. And the West End is, of course, a large area, but it kind of holds true that anytime there's a discussion on where is there more need for more grocery distributions or more outreach for community members to learn more about what is out there, like for food assistance, it's always the West End and the Arlandria neighborhoods.
And how often do you, when I say you, how often does Hunger Free Alexandria support or go out to those neighborhoods?
Well, our food distributions that we helped run throughout the past few months, or April through June, I guess now, took place in the West End area and as well in the Arlandria neighborhood. But it's more that a lot of our partners that are actively serving and providing food assistance are in those two areas as well.
Okay. And it takes an awful lot of skill to pull together all these different organizations. It's a lot of coordinating and talking and going back and forth. And so can you tell me a little bit about what of your experiences in your life leading up to now has given you the skills to be successful and to be so good at doing this?
I'm gonna bring it back again to my time with that organization I served with at GW called Camp Kesem. My junior and senior year of college, I was in charge of the organization on campus, and that honestly was a full-time volunteer but job, and it took up most of my time besides my schoolwork, of course, and that really taught me skills in all fields of managing a nonprofit. It was student run, but we fundraised our entire budget. We created our budget. We ran the programming for the summer camp, ran our own social media and PR. We really did anything you could imagine for a nonprofit. So that definitely lent me all the skills I needed for this position.
So just so I heard you correctly, you have skills in nonprofit leadership, fundraising, and communications. Do you know how many nonprofits in Alexandria need help with leadership, fundraising, and communications? Just saying. So contact the zebra, contact me, contact Ally if you want more information. So I'm also a part-time recruiter, by the way. So going back to the hunger, what effect does hunger have on people, especially kids?
So hunger can have physical health effects as well as mental health effects. It can lead to things like obesity or diabetes. It can lead to stunted development or malnutrition in children. And mental health effects, especially in children, can be seen as anxiety or depression. And it can make just day-to-day life harder to focus in school. And, it can make things like relating to your peers harder as well if they're not going through the same thing you are. So it has physical and mental health effects.
And I'm happy to see that ACPS is involved. I remember, I told you, not many people know this, but I was an Americorps director its first year back in 1994 in Newark, Ohio. And I guess I lived in a bubble up until now. Up until then, I didn't know so many kids were hungry. And I think in Alexandria, it's 1 out of 5. And I remember the teachers, the schools were involved in the particular project I was with, and they said kids can't learn when they're hungry. They just can't. So the school is involved. The free lunch, the free and reduced price lunch and breakfast, that's also part of the coalition of organizations and services.
Yeah. ACPS provides a crazy amount of food truly in Alexandria, especially throughout the pandemic as the schools were closed. They seemingly overnight had to plan their, how they were going to get the kids who received free and reduced price lunch or breakfast those meals. And they've continued to serve since whatever it was, March 13th or whenever schools began closing. And they've continued all throughout the summer as well.
Yeah. And that's an incredible amount of stress on you. So who do you call when you need to vent?
I think it depends on the tone of the vent. You know how sometimes you can have an angry vent and other times it's just maybe, I don't know. If it's an angry vent, I feel like I call my sister because she can get really angry for me, and like it kind of justifies me. So she's always my supporter there. Or one of my best friends from school, I feel like I could call her with anything as well.
And how often do you talk to them, or is that something you don't want to answer?
Surprisingly, I don't get very angry often. I tend to be a go with the flow person. So I can't say I have to call people to vent very often, which is a good thing.
Yeah, but I hope you keep in touch, right?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
So we're halfway through the show already. Again, viewers, if you have any questions, please type them in. We can either ask them on the show, or they may be one of the 5 follow-on questions for tomorrow. And so the next question for you, Ally, is can you define what a food desert is and where they are in Alexandria?
Yeah.
It sounds like a test question, doesn't it?
Yeah, but don't worry, I got the answers. A food desert is a geographic area where a household or people lack access to healthy and affordable food. And I think the biggest thing to remember is the word affordable there, because if there's a grocery store in an area, that doesn't necessarily mean it can't be a food desert if it's not affordable for the population that lives there.
And isn't also part of it in some parts of town where maybe more low-income parts of town, the groceries tend to be smaller, and the food isn't always nutritious. It's more like, 7-Elevens and that kind of thing. I just remember that from some of my other work.
Yeah, exactly. So it doesn't necessarily mean that there's nowhere to buy food, but if there's only convenience stores, like you said, that's not exactly access to healthy or fresh foods.
And where are the food deserts in Alexandria?
So the USDA, the Department of Agriculture, has a very awesome interactive map that I suggest everyone check out. But they classify just slight areas of the West End as food deserts. So that's one of the good things, is that it's not like the whole map of Alexandria is lit up as a food desert, but parts of the West End are recognized as a food desert.
Okay. As part of this show, every time we have a guest, we always ask the question, from your vantage point as the coordinator of Hunger Free Alexandria, what can Alexandrians do to make our community better and stronger?
Well, like I said, I've been floored by just how involved a lot of Alexandrians are in the community. But I think the answer always kind of to that question is just community engagement. So get involved. And in terms of hunger, I think a big thing that can be is to help raise awareness, because your neighbor might not know that 1 in 5 Alexandrians lack consistent access to healthy foods. And that can be a real shock if you're living in Alexandria and don't know that. So spreading the word about food insecurity in Alexandria, I think, is a really good thing to do, and continuing to be the engaged and neighborly members of Alexandria that I've seen. I think that's big.
Okay. And how can people help? If somebody wants to get involved in Hunger Free Alexandria, what can they do?
So there's a few ways to get involved in Hunger Free and in the food landscape of Alexandria overall. One way is to volunteer with some of our partners. So I know you've had Marion on here before, but going to Volunteer Alexandria is a great place to start. Also, just to be an engaged community member, because there are so many opportunities to volunteer virtually and in person on Volunteer Alexandria. And there's always ways to get involved with some of our partners, like Alive, helping them bag food or helping them at their food distributions. Some of our other partners as well have opportunities on there, as well as like I said, just becoming more kind of educated on hunger in Alexandria. So our website has links to different reports, and I also highly suggest visiting websites of more national anti-hunger nonprofits like No Kid Hungry or the Alliance to End Hunger. They always have emailing campaigns or different advocacy tools you can use to reach out to elected representatives to let them know that, I care about hunger in my community and there's things that they can do to help.
Okay, great. Thank you. And so I had asked you earlier, who do you call when you need to vent? Well, if you don't need to vent, but you need to binge, what do you binge on? It could be food or it could be a TV show.
Let's see. My most recent show that I cannot stop binging is The West Wing on Netflix. I've never seen it fully through, and my mom loves that show, so I finally was like, okay, I'm going to watch it. And I've been loving that recently. And I think my go-to snack while I'm binging a Netflix show are probably those peanut butter-filled pretzels.
Mm-hmm.
Love.
Right. We just finished season 6 of Homeland
Oh, no.
last night. So we've gone through the Americans, Downton Abbey, um, one more, and this is our now. That's our new one. So if you could be on any TV show, a current one or a former one, what would you be on, and what would your character be?
This may make me sound like I only watch politically based TV shows, but I promise I watch everything. But I would love to be a character on Veep because I adore Julia Louis-Dreyfus, and I think it would be a highlight of my life to have her insult me. So I could be any baseline character in the background, just a staff or anything. But I love that show, and the insults are amazing.
And do you know, in 2014, I was on one of those shows.
Were you
I,
really?
I was. I actually had a speaking part. My name was in the credits, and every once in a while, I get a residual check for $2.14. Long story. I'll tell you another time.
That's amazing.
But it was an incredible day just to be in that space and to see how TV worked. It was completely surreal. Amazing.
That
But
sounds awesome.
back to food. So changing subjects. You talked about food desert, but did you talk about food insecure? Can you talk a little bit more about that and what that means?
So I mean, of course they're related. A household that's food insecure lacks reliable, consistent access to healthy and nutritious food that basically that can help them lead a healthy life. So it's that consistency and lack of access.
And how could a low-income family, do you have any suggestions or recommendations how they could have a healthy meal on a budget?
Of course, in terms of gaining access to food, I always recommend that families look into if they're eligible for SNAP, so Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, because the federal funding is there for Alexandria especially. The study that helped found Hunger Free Alexandria back in 2014, one of their biggest takeaways was that there's federal funding that Alexandrians are not using. So always look into that, and that can be a big help. But also, there are so many resources online, and my year with Americorps, I use them all the time looking up, budget recipes, and there's whole websites just dedicated to how to have a healthy meal on a budget. One of my personal favorites is to make a fried rice with a bunch of frozen veggies in it. But there's lots of resources.
That sounds pretty good, actually. So, in all of this, what do you like the best about yourself?
I would say probably my enthusiasm. I try to bring 100% to everything that I do, and that's what's carried me through my time at GW and through this past year, and I think it's served me well so far.
Well, you've certainly been enthusiastic on this show, and so I hope a future employer notices your enthusiasm and your nonprofit experience and your fundraising. And see, the phone's ringing now. Somebody's calling. They want to offer you a job.
Perfect timing.
So when it rains, what do you like to do on a rainy day?
I love to, of course, go back to Netflix or watch a movie. But I also really love reading, and I've especially during all of quarantine been reading a lot more. So that's just curling up with a good book is a classic rainy day activity.
So what are you reading right now?
So I'm in between books right now, but I get National Geographic to my house, so I was behind on some of those. So I just read a few different of those magazines.
So if you could be anybody for a day, who would you be and why?
I think I would like to be a woman who's in a position of power, comes to mind maybe the Prime Minister of New Zealand, because she's just been doing such a great job, and she just seems so intelligent. So I think to spend a day as her would be eye-opening. That'd be a good one.
I'm just thinking about what a fabulous asset you would be with any organization. I hope people are listening. So, on a lighter note, what was the first concert you ever saw live?
I'm gonna make myself sound like I'm 14 years old, but I promise you I'm 23. My first concert was actually the Jonas Brothers, and
Oh no!
it was when they toured. It gets worse, don't worry. It was when they toured with Hannah Montana / Miley Cyrus.
Right?
Again, I promise you I'm 23 years old, not 14.
Well, that was the first one. How old were you when you saw it?
I think I was 10 or 11.
Okay.
Yeah.
That seems age appropriate.
Right. But it was really fun.
Oh, it had to be at 10? Oh, yeah, totally. Where did you see them at?
I can't remember. I'm from Long Island, New York, so I can't remember if it was at Madison Square Garden or if it was at the Nassau Coliseum, but one of those two in New York.
Oh, that sounds awesome. Was this like a birthday or something?
I can't remember how we ended up going, but it was just the best.
Aw. And who did you go with?
I went with my mom and I think 2 of my friends from elementary school at the time.
Oh, that sounds like so much fun. It really does. Okay, I have a question I've been wanting to ask a guest for 3 weeks now, and it hasn't come out of the bowl. And it's here. And if you had to choose between parachuting with the Army Golden Knights or flying in an F-16 with the Air Force Thunderbirds, what would you choose?
I think I would choose to parachute with the Golden Knights.
No!
Is that the wrong answer?
Yes! I'm sorry, my first career I was in the Air Force.
I've been set up. I didn't know that about you.
I know. No, tell me about why you'd want to parachute, and I'll tell you a story too.
Please. I would love to hear about your time in the Air Force. I don't know, that just calls to me a little bit more. I know that flying in the Thunderbird would be amazing and unlike anything before, but I've never been skydiving or anything like that. So if I'm going to jump out of a plane, I should do it right and do it with the Golden Knights, I think.
Yeah. Well, here's that, I've never said this, I don't think ever out loud in my life, but I had a chance to tandem jump with them when I was active duty, and I didn't.
Why didn't
I regret it to this day. I'm so ashamed of myself. And I think it came down to, I hate to admit this, I think I was scared. But, you're with the safest people in the world. I mean, there's nobody that can parachute jump like a Golden Knight, right? So, when they ask those questions about what's your biggest regret in life, it's that I didn't tandem jump with the Army Golden Knights. So there you have it, true confessions.
Still a cool story that you had the opportunity to.
Yeah. So anyway, we're really about out of time. So is there anything else you want to say?
Well, thank you for having me again. This has been awesome. I just think that, like I said, I've been amazed with my time in Alexandria by everyone and how involved in the community you are, but there's always more you can do. But keep up the great work.
Okay, well, great. Well, Ally, thank you so very much. Thank you for all the work you've done for Alexandria. When you took this job in September of last year, you probably had no idea how busy you would be or what it would entail. But you've just brought so much hope, so much food, so much security to so many people in Alexandria. You've really helped bring our community together. So thank you. On behalf of all of Alexandria, thank you. And good luck with your job search. Anybody would be lucky to have you.
Thank you so much.
All right, Susan, back to you.
Okay, terrific. Thank you so much. And Ally, what a pleasure to meet you. And I have to agree. And by the way, Jane, you have a real skill as a recruiter and as a promoter. So I think that's really going to help Ally here. But honestly, I second that motion. And anybody who's watching can see tonight what a dynamic and smart and ambitious hard worker you are. So good luck to you in the job search. It's definitely tough. And thanks for everything that you've done for Alexandria. It's really great.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
Sure thing. Okay, so that is going to do it for tonight's episode of ZTV Live. Thank you so much for joining in, everybody. Tomorrow night we're on hiatus for the Virginia Amos show. We're not going to be on the air tomorrow night, but we will be back next week. Actually, next Monday night, Steve Hauk with his awesome show Living on Music will be here. His guest is Daryl Davis, an international recording artist, a published author, an actor, and leader of the Daryl Davis Band. On Tuesday night, I'll be thrilled to interview Gina Cavallaro, a new guest host who will be working here with us on ZTV Live soon. And on Wednesday night, we have the Jane Collins Show, and Thursday, Virginia Amos is back. So I hope we see you right back here again next week. And until then, remember to be kind to everybody. And in addition, remember to be the good news in someone's life.